to us for 15 to 20 minutes on the art of pro-life persuasion, and
Yes, ma'am.
he's a student at New Mexico Tech. Tell us a little bit about what you're studying.
Okay, so, well, my name is Matthew Cash. I'm studying electrical engineering at New Mexico Tech. However, I'm also going to be attempting to head up to UNM in about a year so I can study nuclear engineering as well. I'm getting involved in various Christian groups, and I'm also trying to get involved in various pro-life groups to teach others the art of pro-life persuasion, using lessons I have learned in the training I have received.
Tell us about the training you've received, what
Okay.
it's called, and
Okay,
so
so the training I've received has come from an organization called Stand to Reason. They offer numerous materials offered by several different people, such as Greg Kokel, who's the president. You have Scott Klausendorf, who's the director of bioethics. They have Alan Schliemann, Brent Kunkel. They all go around. They give various talks. They debate others regarding these issues, and they offer tactics to not just make a moral statement, but to make a moral impact. They go and they attempt to impact individuals with ideas using simple but yet very effective methods to get people to think about what they believe as opposed to just simply emoting.
very good. And did you hear where I met Matthew? I met him at InterVarsity, and when we were promoting our event, Silent No More, I asked if students would hand out flyers, and everyone was just kind of quiet. And I thought, oh no, no one's gonna even hand out a flyer. They're too chicken. And he said, I'll take them. But oh, good, there's one. And I thought, one's a majority in my way of thinking. And I really put him on the spot because I wanted to see if anyone would take a stand, and he did. So okay. So congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, so just a little bit of disclaimer. I've adapted parts of the speech I'm going to give tonight from a lesson called Only One Question. It's part of the Ambassador Basic Curriculum. It's offered as part of. It's offered from Stand to Reason. In fact, we are allowed to take parts of the speech and give them to others as well because they want us to go out. They want us to teach others what they have taught us. Okay, so that's just a legal disclaimer. So tonight, I am here actually as an ambassador for Jesus Christ. Okay, you can find the passage in 2 Corinthians 5:20, where he talks about as though we are ambassadors for Christ, as though he are entreating through us. Now, when we talk about being ambassadors, he means a very particular type of person. Now, imagine you are somebody of political significance, and you're wanting to send somebody out to represent you and your viewpoints. You would have a list of qualifications you want this person to meet, correct? And so you would want them to know the message, and you'd want them to know any obstacles they would encounter. You would want them to be able to convey the message in such a manner that would maximize the impact it would have, and you would want them to be trustworthy as well. Because they could have all the knowledge, they can even know how to convey it, but if they're rude or obnoxious, people aren't going to listen to them. And Stand to Reason actually characterizes these qualifications as follows. They say that the first one is knowledge, which is an accurately informed mind. 2, wisdom, an artful method. And 3, character in an attractive manner. Okay? Now, as an ambassador for Christ and as a citizen of a free society, I have a moral obligation to engage the public and lawmakers in discussion of public policy on all levels of government. Now, there are people out there that may attempt to dissuade me ahead of time simply because I claim to be a Christian. This is invalid in several ways. One, the First Amendment grants me this right. The First Amendment restricts the government, not me. Second, I'm not arguing a particular public policy on how you must worship or when, but rather I am arguing a policy of a moral concern, which is something all laws do. Every single law dictates some sort of moral policy. And so if you say that I can't argue a public policy, or you say my views are invalid simply because I'm a Christian, you commit what's called the genetic fallacy. Now tonight I'm going to be arguing in favor of a particular public policy as a Christian, informed by my Christian worldview, motivated by my religious convictions, but does not rest upon them. In fact, you can have an atheist, a Hindu, or a Muslim make the same arguments I give tonight, and they would still stand on the merits. Now, when it comes to the public policy of abortion, there's only one question that virtually solves this debate, and I'll illustrate what I mean. There's Scott Klausendorf, who I had mentioned earlier. He was debating Anna Runkle of Planned Parenthood, and during the debate, Anna Runkle had made the following contentions: abortion is a decision between a woman, her doctor, and her God. Making abortion illegal will force women into dangerous back alley abortions. After all, women have the right to choose, correct? 90% of abortions are done in the first trimester. And besides, who are we to judge? Decisions aren't made lightly. Women labor over this difficult choice all the time. We look at Anna, and we look at her, and we say, you know what, Anna, you're right. If what? Well, that's going to depend on the answer to one question. I'm going to take you to a trip to your office. So imagine you're at your computer, your back is turned. And if you have children, imagine they're young. And you feel a tug on your shirt, and all of a sudden you hear, "Mommy, Daddy, can I kill this?" Now, what question must you ask before you can answer that question? Now, you turn around, and you see that he has a spider or a cockroach. "Yes, squash it, please, kill it." He turns around, he has his brother's puppy. No, wait, hold on, wait a second, wait it. But he has his kid sister by the throat. No, okay, sit down, son, we're going to have a serious conversation. Now, this illustration shows us that whether or not it's okay to kill something depends entirely upon what it is. Now, in Anna's case, if the unborn is not a human being, then her case is right. In fact, we don't even need to justify abortion, do we? We can just have it and be on your way. No justification is necessary. However, if the unborn is a human being, then no justification is adequate, including the justifications of like, say, reminders of traumatic events like rape or incest. The children may not be wanted, they may be too expensive, or even the rights to privacy or choice. Now, I'm going to offer two contentions tonight that the unborn is a human being. In fact, these are part of the art of pro-life. This is part of the art of pro-life persuasion. They offer two basic ways that they offer for the unborn. The first one is the unborn is a human being. This is a scientific case, and that's only going to be a short while because I have much more planned for the other one. The second is a philosophical case, in that there is no moral difference between the unborn and those outside the womb. And then the third, I'll be talking about ways we, as pro-lifers and as Christians, can make the maximum impact on society. And if I time everything just right, there will be absolutely no time for questions. That's a joke. Okay, so the first one is the unborn is a human being, and this is demonstrated simply by what's known as the law of biogenesis. It has two aspects to it. One, the life comes from life, and two, the species reproduces after its own kind. Now, someone may claim that the unborn is not a human, but it's rather a potential human, a possible human. It's a future human. Well, in that case, I have to ask you, well, if it's not a human, what is it? I mean, do I dare suggest that it may be some sort of plant? I mean, if it's not a plant, okay, so it's a type of animal. Well, what type of animal is it? Is it an amphibian? Is it a reptile? Is it a fish? Oh, okay, so it's a type of mammal. Okay, so you whittle it down, and you eventually see that, we come to see that it's a human being, a Homo sapiens, okay? I mean, because what other type of being can a human male and a human female come together and conceive? I can see no other choice, quite frankly. Now, you may say that the unborn it may be a human being, but it's not necessarily a person. Now, this is not coming on to my second case. So if you make the claim that being human doesn't make you a person, then I have to ask you, well, then what's the difference? Because if you make that claim, you have just done something very serious. You've just divided humanity into two groups. A group of human beings that are protected under the law, and a group of human beings that can be killed with impunity. And if you're going to make this distinction, you had better be able to justify it. Because you have just done several things. One, you have just included obvious examples of non-persons, such as animals or robots. And you've also included human beings outside of the womb as well. Now, if you ask this person the question, oftentimes you ask them what's the difference, they remain silent. Why? Because this is not a principled response. This is just merely an attempt to dismiss your view, right? This personhood shell game is used when somebody else's interest when it is in somebody else's interest to disenfranchise them. And history bears the remarks. The Dred Scott decision of 1857. Dred Scott was a runaway slave. I believe he ran to Missouri, and from Missouri he sued for his freedom. The Supreme Court turned him down, saying that because he was a man of color, and as the son of slaves, he did not possess personhood, and thus was not protected under the law. The Nazi final solution was also a part of this, because we had the Nazis who dehumanized the Jews. They said they were not persons. In fact, they coined this phrase, life unworthy of life. The end result of classifying certain humans as persons will always result in barbarism. Now, what are some specific reasons that some humans offer that some people offer that disqualify the unborn as not being persons? Well, they offer 4 ways. In fact, there are only 4 ways that the unborn differ from those outside the womb. And this is characterized by the acronym SLED, okay? S-L-E-D. It stands for size or physical appearance, level of development, environment, which that's implicit in abortion laws, and then degree of dependency. I'll take each one in turn. Now, first we come to the essence SLED, which is size or physical appearance. Now, Oftentimes you'll hear it this way. It's not big enough. It's only a few cells. It's only the size of a marking on a piece of paper. It doesn't look like a human. Well, okay. Well, in that case, men are generally bigger than women. Does this mean that men are worth more than women? Does that give us the right to oppress them? Well, absolutely not. That's absurd, right? Now, I mean, is it a lesser crime to beat a smaller child as opposed to a larger one? No, that's absurd. We clearly see that this argument is faulty. Now, the unborn doesn't look like a human being. Well, of course it looks like a human being. It looks like a human being does at that stage of development. I mean, every one of us looked like that at that stage of development. The fetus doesn't look like an infant. The infant doesn't look like a teenager. The teenager doesn't look like a fully aged adult. But it retains its full humanness at every stage of development. Your personhood transcends your physical appearance to include size, physical handicaps, figurations, even if you are disfigured beyond recognition. In fact, there's a term that is used to coin the slaughter of large groups of human beings simply because of their physical attributes. We call this ethnic cleansing. If you lose value when you're not the right size, you don't look right, then there's no defense against racism or ethnic cleansing. Okay. Next, we come on to the L, level of development. Oftentimes you'll hear this as well. It's not capable as what other humans can do. I mean, well, do our capabilities determine our worth? I mean, there are many disabled adults that are less capable, quote unquote, than newborns. Would this justify killing them? I mean, are stronger and more capable humans, like say accomplished musicians or athletes or engineers, have more worth than others? No, this is clearly absurd. In fact, let's say I had lost an arm. I had just lost some capability. Would I be less of a human? Wouldn't I still be me, though? I mean, let's say I lost both arms, my legs, my vision, my hearing, my speech. At what point would you have to declare me no longer a person? You can't make that line. As long as I'm still alive, am I still me? Aren't I still me? In fact, if our capabilities are handicaps, what we can or cannot do determine our value, then anyone who possesses a handicap is in danger. Only the physically perfect are safe. Next, we come on to environment. This is implicit in abortion laws. Now, did any one of us gain value when we moved through that door? No, we did not. I'm going to tell you the story of a baby Rachel. Greg Kokel, who's the president of Stand to Reason, has some close friends who had a baby born prematurely at 22 weeks. She was born, she weighed 1 pound, 9 ounces, and she dropped shortly to a pound shortly thereafter. You could fit her in the palm of your hand. Now, the doctors took heroic measures to save her, and she's now growing beautifully to this day. But imagine if she was sitting there laying at her mother's breast. A doctor came up to her and slaughtered the child. Maybe that would be a moral outrage, wouldn't it? Now, imagine the very same baby Rachel at 22 weeks inside the womb, only inches away. What changed? An 8-inch trip down the birth canal? That's the only thing. What's the difference between 22-year-old baby Rachel inside and outside the womb? Nothing. This only shows that your location is morally trivial. Now we finally come on to the degree of dependency. You hear this in several forms. One, the fetus can't survive on its own. It can't breathe air. It can't digest food on its own. Well, if this is the case, then no baby is viable, as all depend on their mothers for sustenance, whether it's the umbilical cord, breast milk, or formula in a bottle. In fact, if your dependency determines your value, then anyone who's dependent upon anything, their insulin, intravenous fluid, dialysis, canned oxygen, all of them would have to be declared non-persons. I mean, if your dependency determines your personhood, then no moral principle protects the weak and vulnerable from the strong and powerful. Now, as such, your size, your physical appearance, your level of development, environment, and your degree of dependency do not determine how valuable you are. And because of these reasons, unborn human beings are being slaughtered. And they cannot defend themselves, and that's why I believe this must be stopped. Now, I'm going to talk about getting personal. We're going to talk about making a statement versus making an impact, okay? Now, this is the land of the free, yet our most defenseless citizens are not saved from destruction by their own mother's hand. And now, this is the land of the brave, yet pro-choice advocates have women cowering at the mere thought of pregnancy, like it's some sort of disease. Churches need to get involved in this issue. You may say, well, churches don't need to get involved with politics. Well, guess what? Every church is going to get a phone call, and on the end of that phone, there's going to be some scared 17-year-old little girl whose boyfriend is forcing her to have an abortion. Is that political then? No. That's personal. Now, when that phone rings, is there going to be someone there who's not going to take a stand and follow Jesus? Now, rock concerts, banquets, and candlelight vigils, all of those things, quite frankly, they're all good. I mean, they're all good and all, but I don't really think they're effective. I mean, they do nothing to impact the culture down at the idea level. They do not equip pro-lifers to defend their view persuasively, and they do not change people's minds. The minds must be changed for ideas change. Now, what's going on while we're holding these events? Now, while we're holding rallies and golf tournaments, Peter Singer, who's the director of bioethics at Princeton of all places, is advocating that newborns not be considered persons until 1 month after birth and that disabled ones be killed on the spot. While we're holding banquets and Christian rock concerts, Time magazine reports on scientists in Great Britain and the United States developing headless human clones to harvest body organs. And while we're having candlelight vigils and potlucks, the state of Oregon is mandating that taxpayers fund doctor-assisted suicide. Now, I think there's a better way. Instead of making a moral statement with an outward show of expression, I think we make a moral impact on the culture by learning the art of pro-life persuasion. I've used some of these techniques by just simply asking questions. These techniques are simple and easy to learn. In fact, they engage the issue with our minds. They force our opponents to engage the issue with their minds. And they help destroy speculations regarding pro-choice rhetoric. We don't need to set out to change the world, but only be ready for the individual encounters God brings to us. Making a thoughtful impact on those individuals will sow seeds that will reap benefits for eternity. Now, I'm here to offer my services to train and equip other pro-lifers to make a difference. And I can also turn you to other resources, namely the resources from Stand to Reason by the authors I have mentioned. In fact, there's no better place to start as an ambassador than for contending for the lives of the unborn. In fact, one by one, by individual encounter, we can stop this slaughter and then make a difference in the culture and in the mind of others.